Welcome to the Talk Shop.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the first summer edition of the Talk Shop. I'm outside on the patio, chilling. Chimdi, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Back in New York. It's great. It's great. And we have a lovely guest with us, Miss Ezinne.
Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Brittany, you want to introduce her more?
Yes. Ezinne is my cousin. She's awesome young lady. Mother of three, but she's an awesome, beautiful, smart, young lady. Ezinne, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, because I won't do you all the justice that you deserve.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I did not prepare to do an introduction. So what should I be talking about? There's so many parts to Ezinne, so I need to know what you want me to highlight.
Wherever you want to go.
What do you want the people to know about you?
Okay, so I typically don't like to be put in the mommy wife box, even though that's like part of my resume, if you can call it that. So I'm a passionate person. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about business development and just, adding value wherever I can and just, seeking out opportunities and harnessing them in whatever capacity that I really can. I think now it's a great time to just to give a backstory about Bernie and I and our relationship. So, yeah. See, you're not going to have this conversation without me highlighting that, okay? You're not going to escape it.
No, I can't.
I'm going to tell the full story.
Wait,
so Bernie is my cousin.
Tell us. Yes, tell
us. Bernie is my cousin, and he went to a high school that I wanted to go to so badly, Loyola. Mm-hmm. And we took the exams together. I was in what they call it now? Is it year 5? What do they call it in Nigerian secondary school?
Primary 5, right?
No, not primary. Is it primary? Yeah, primary 5. Yes. Yeah. So we took the exam. We both took the exam in primary 5, and it was so competitive. Like they would have thousands of people competing to get into Loyola, and I think they only take 100 people or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like the competition was stiff, and that was my ultimate dream school to go to. And I did it in primary 5. Bernie and I did it in primary 5. We didn't get in. Then we did it again in primary 6. Bernie got in and I didn't get in. Then I'm like, okay, he got into Loyola, whatever. Then we come to Canada and everyone is hustling to get into U of T. And I'm like, why is this Bernie following me all the way to Canada after Loyola? And we're all hustling to get into U of T. And this freaking Bernie gets into U of T and I don't get into it. And I'm like, what is this taking? What is this boy? God, why is this Bernie following me? This U of T that I'm hustling to get into. Bernie's also got into U of T. So I was so jealous. But, somehow we still kept in touch. I ended up in a university in Nova Scotia. And, we have family in Toronto. So we always kind of meet up. And Bernie is my go-to guy. Like, if I want to go out and have a good time, I'm like, it's Bernie I'm hanging out with, and somehow I got to know his friends and all of that. So yeah.
There was a time when do you remember there was that Euphoria party and like Ezinne wanted to go to the party?
Yes.
There used to be a Nigerian club in Toronto called Eagle House. And and there was a party going on and she wanted to go, but she was staying with our uncle and he was like, Nope. You're not going, no chance.
You cannot go.
Until she called me and was like, listen, talk to him. So I told him I'm going with her, don't worry about it. And he let her go. And then
pick me up and everything. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Good times.
You know how crazy it is having to leave Nigeria and still have family like monitoring you. Like, everybody had their freedom except me. So it was not like a blessing and a curse to have family in Canada. It was just so annoying. And I hope my uncles don't get to hear what I'm talking about right now.
We'll laugh about it, don't worry.
I know, right? I know.
Constant family rivalries you end up finding wherever you are. I have the same thing with some of my cousins that are here. Attending secondary school, the university, and keeping in contact and stuff. It's nice. I mean, at least you have people that are ambitious in your family. It's not as if you have people that are not trying to do anything.
Oh, yeah.
Compete with. So.
Absolutely.
Good. It's good. It's good. So, I mean, speaking of what you introduced in the beginning, like you know, having a passion for businesses and trying to improve processes. Just, I mean, I'm personally very interested in your work on 234 finance, because that's one thing I see, and and I'm very impressed with whenever I see what you're doing with that. Just give us a little bit of insight on into what that is, and how it came about, what made you start it, and then you can go into your other work if you want to.
Oh yeah, I wear a bunch of hats, and I think this 1 hour will be too short to go through everything that I'm involved in. So I'll just highlight 234 finance because it's a passion point for me, and it's my purpose basically. So 234 finance has evolved over the years, and since you're asking how it started, I'm going to go from the very very beginning.
Yeah.
So in 2012, I left Canada quite early. So when you're in Canada, as most international students are, the Canadian government is trying to pitch to you to get your work permit and eventually get your PR and all of that. But for me, I've just always taken a very different road from most people. So after uni, I moved to Canada. In fact, actually, in my third year in uni, when I actually found myself, because I kind of struggled in deciding what program to take. So I did like a very general program. I did a co-op program. Co-op means that you're doing regular schooling and you're having internships in between. And I did that program because I was just not sure of what I wanted to do. So there are people who know that, okay, I want to do economics, I like numbers. There are people that know, okay, I want to do arts. I was never like that. I was always more like the generalist, which is good and bad. And my parents are both entrepreneurs. So I've always been in an environment where people are like hustling for the next deal. Like, I got it raw and unfiltered, like entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
both my parents. So you can imagine. So it's something that is like in my DNA, if I can use that word. So I just knew, okay, you know what, because my parents are entrepreneurship, maybe business, it was familiar to me. So I studied business and I kind of did like a program. I did a co-op program that, had different things incorporated in it. It had accounting, it had a bit of marketing, it had finance and all of that. But in my third year, I took a course called, it was International Business and Strategy. That was the course, and that was the game changer for me. That was when I realized, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And basically, in that program, we're introduced to international markets, just international trade, and just how the world. I mean, I'm talking about 11, 12 years ago. So this was way beyond before. This was probably when Facebook just started out, right? And what a lot of what we're experiencing, I did a business plan on it. So I did a business plan then on bringing African art to the Western world. How it's going to happen. That was what I did as my thesis, if you may call it. That was like the beginning of this calling or this purpose that I had. Then I graduated and I moved to Toronto for about a year. And after a year, the hustle, new grad, you're trying to get a job and all of that. And that Christmas, I went to Nigeria and I had an opportunity to work, which was a very rare opportunity. I was probably like 23. I was really young. And I had the opportunity to work in an oil and gas trading company in Geneva, Mercuria Energy Trading in Geneva. And Geneva was a French speaking, I mean, they speak French. And at the time, this is interesting, I was dating some guy, and he lived 3 hours from me. So it was just convenient. He lived in the US. So for me, I was okay being in Toronto. And I'm like, please, well, what am I going to go and do in Geneva? When, life is good, I just need time to get a job. And he called me and said, Coco, are you mad? Are you mad? Have you ever heard anyone going to Geneva? As in, you better grab that opportunity with both your hands. I'm like, hey, but our relationship, says, I beg, the relationship will be all right. Please be going. Do you know what?
It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But, at the time, I was young, I was naive, and I was like, you know how we girls are now, very emotional. But he was like, see, you have this opportunity, you go for it. So I found myself in Geneva, a 23-year-old with I was very, very hungry from day one. I was, very hungry. And by then, done all the hustle I wanted to do in Toronto, done all the networking, trying to enter the Canadian, Black Canadian communities. It was tough. And for me, if something isn't working, I'm like, okay, let me try this out. You never know. So I moved to Geneva in 2012, and I was working in Mercuria as an intern. And it was just an exposure. And I just want to mention that I wish I knew how to speak French, because it really affected me. I'll have networked more effectively and, made a lot of connections. But because of that language gap, it was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working with, they were interested in investing in the downstream and upstream oil and gas industry in Africa. And, that was where the dream kind of started, because I struggled with my work. I struggled with getting information, with getting data. Analyst was like an analyst type of role. And it was a role that, based on relationship, that role was kind of created for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like it was set, requirements. So I had to be creative and I had to be productive with what I was doing. And I was an analyst, and they were interested in the West African market, including the Francophone market as well. And, it was so hard getting information. I'll have to call and, call people. It was so tedious. I'm like, why do I have to go through this? If you want to get information from like more developed economies, you just go into a Reuters.com and you have all that data. But in, African markets, it was a totally different thing. So at some point, because the role that I was in, I had to also fly into Nigeria, from time to time and all of that. So at some point I went back to Nigeria and I was working remotely. And, in my mind, I'm like, why don't I start like a Reuters for Africa? That was honestly where this idea came from.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I start, like a database, create like an online database, get all the businesses, all the schools, like a directory sort of thing. What do you call it now? I know there's what do you call it? Like that directory that we use in North America. I can't remember what it's called. The big directory.
I don't know what they call it, but there used to be all these things like Dun and Bradstreet and stuff where you get like business information, even
Like
credit
almanac?
information.
Yeah, like a book.
Like almanac?
Yeah, I think the almanac, or like, directory is a better word anyway, but like I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, directory. So that was what it actually started as. And at the time, it was really like a content platform, to be very honest. So I was working with a lot of journalists, and I was the role I gave myself was editor-in-chief. So I created the website from scratch, worked with a bunch of Indian developers. That was before all of this whole tech boom started. This was back in 2013, right? And I was trying to create a list, like a directory where people can just go. So the idea I had, so at that time, Linda Ikeji was what was really popping. And in my mind, I'm like, how can a gossip blog be popping when something that would add value to people?
Exactly.
Why is no one thinking about this? Why is no one, why hasn't anyone created this yet? Why is Linda Ikeji making so much money? And everyone was thinking about blogging. Blogging was like the thing, back then. So, I was like creating this thing from scratch, getting information. So it was more like an information platform, really. Then at some point we started, I started working with people. I was spending my savings, and I didn't have any responsibilities. I was working in Mercuria. I was earning dollars as an intern. Hey, God.
Dollars.
That I was taking for granted. Like I did not know the value of money. Life has humbled me to know that even $100 is something, So I was, putting all that money into 234 Finance. I was, creating the website. In fact, I've changed the website over 5 times. And for me, I wanted the website to really, I was trying to push the content. So I wasn't even pushing myself. I was just pushing the online platform. But, especially in Nigeria, people like to know who is behind the brand. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I just, I had a job. So it was like a side hobby. I didn't have children. I didn't have responsibilities. So it was like a passion point. Mm-hmm. And at that time, when I moved to Nigeria, because at some point, I left Mercuria and moved to Nigeria, I did my NYSC and all of that. There was this boom. That was when Buhari came into power. So there was this boom of, SMEs, pushing SMEs. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but there was just, it was like a buzzword, SME. Banks were pushing SMEs and all of that. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to pivot a little bit from an information platform to now focus on SMEs, since that's where,
So let
where
me ask you this before you go on. Is that
sure,
was
sure.
it the SME thing that prompted you to switch directions, or was it like was there also something else, like maybe you're like, okay, traffic isn't what I want, or I'm not getting, was there any other thing aside from that that made you decide to push, or was
It
just
was
the
a
SME
bunch
thing?
of it was a bunch of things, to be honest. So one, I wasn't connecting with the audience. And like I said, there was this trust issue. People were seeing our content, and I was doing everything. I was creating the content, I was managing. Because if you go on 234finance.com, you would see like we have over 500 organic articles. So I was working with a team that put articles, and I was putting so much work to create the content. But I'm just one person, and this was a side thing for me. So I wasn't like pushing the marketing and pushing the content out, for people to see. And I was also following the trends at the time. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm all over the place. Let me just, narrow it down to SMAs. So at the time, I contracted this Nigerian company. They're really big now, Creditor, to redesign my entire, to overhaul my entire website, because everything was online, was strictly online. And remember, nobody knew who was behind the brand. And people have a problem with that, especially when you're talking about serious stuff like business, entrepreneurship. People want to know who is the person that is pushing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about money, you're talking about helping people raise. In fact, we weren't even talking about helping people raise money at the time. We're just, talking about
Just business
SME,
in general, right?
Yeah.
yeah, encouraging them, because I felt that there was a huge gap in the SME space. There was a knowledge gap, and we needed to, just put out content that would, give SMEs tips on how to manage business, how to run business, things like that. So I was managing a lot of editors. So I was really, really busy with the back end that I wasn't visible at all, and I didn't have a team. I remember this was something that I was funding from my savings. There's a lady, my friend Emilia, she's my dad's goddaughter. I don't know if you follow my Instagram. I always post about her. She died this year, and she's played a very huge role in my 234 finance journey. And I always run things by her as well. I was like, Emilia, you know what? I want to do something about mentorship. That a lot of these SMEs, they need mentorship, and I just think it'll be an interesting twist. And we need to also add human elements. We need to find a way to engage people outside of the blog. So people need to know, okay, real life, scenarios like engagement. And at the time, it was 2017, I was pregnant with my twins. So of course I was also not ready to put myself at the forefront, because I was like heavily pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did not want to be on the limelight. So I was working with Emilia's team, and we organized the mentor matchup. And the mentor matchup was basically how it started was, boardroom setting. You bring someone who is a mentor figure in a specific field. You bring the person, and you bring like 5 to 8 people who are also in that field, and they have like an intimate session with the person. They're able to ask questions, and they get direct feedback, based on the person's experience. And if the mentor chooses to engage with them after the session, it's up to them. There's no, it's not, it's not compulsory. So we ran that. We had, people like Gossi. We had people, we had interesting up and coming entrepreneurs. We did that mentor matchup thing back to back for 4 months. And in fact, there was a period that I was actually in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is literally 10 hours different from Nigeria. Yes. And I had to organize it virtually. I was going crazy, but I did that back to back.
While you were pregnant too, right?
While I was pregnant, yes.
It's
Yes,
mad.
while I was pregnant. And, we got a bit of traction because we're now engaging SMEs offline, and building that human connection. It made me understand that, okay, there's something in this thing. Let me, go with this in this direction. And with me, I'm a very flexible person. Like, I'm very quick to pivot. I don't hold on to any idea. If I say, okay, this thing is not working, I'm quick to shut it down and try something else until I find something that works. So the mentor matchup was something that appeared to be working. And with 234 Finance, the dream is so big that people actually get confused about what we are. They're like, okay, are they a content platform? Are they financiers? So it was so vague. That's the truth. So the mentor matchup was something that was very specific. We're mentoring people, period. So it was easier for people to connect with, and it was something that people actually needed. So the following year, the following year in 2018, we're like, you know what? Let's do this bigger. So so I slowed down on online content and blogging. I'm like, okay, I see that, real life engagement is actually where, we're getting people's attention. So we decided to scale it up a bit. And we're like, we're going to have a grand event, and we're going to have it at the Oriental Hotel. We're going to have people, we're going to have a panel discussion. We're going to have mentors come in and mentor people. And we're going to have people just, for a tip. The pitching isn't really the thing, but just to get people's attention and to get people to, to get their attention to apply for the event, we're going to put a $5,000 grant attached to it. So we now realize that it was actually Trust Nigerian Entrepreneurs. It was the 5,000 grant that everybody, it got everybody's attention.
That's the switch.
So we did a call. We did a call for application, and people were applying, and they wanted that $5,000 grant. And it's been a journey. And the very first event went really well. I got even my mom to be, so I had different roles. I had panelists. We had them talk about, we had panelists from 6 different sectors. We had agriculture, we had oil and gas, we had e-commerce. I got the MD of Conga. Is it Conga? Yeah, Conga, Shola Adekoya. I got like very strong people. So it was as if, who are these people that came out of nowhere and they brought all these powerhouses?
Right.
People are like, where are these people coming from? Do you understand? And for me, I would say that I leveraged on my network, because that's a skill that I have. I just, know how to keep relationships and nurture relationships, way before you need that relationship. And it's very important, people don't like it when you're transactional and you just want something for them. And when you get that thing, you're gone. So
that's
if
a
I
very
need
good
something
point.
for you in 3 months, yeah. So if I need something for you in 3 months, I start nurturing that relationship 3 months in advance. So it's an easy ask. Oh, please, can you do this for me? And they're like, oh, absolutely, Ezinne, I'll do it for you,
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to really leverage on my network and all of that. And the MMC 3.0 was very successful. We're able to raise the $5,000. We were able to split it in half in 2 startups, and they were able to progress in their different businesses. And we're like, okay, let's do it again. So we did Mentor Matchup 3.0, and, we got success stories, or rather progress stories, because running a business is, it's a work in progress. You never arrive. You're just always at it.
I love what you just said. Sorry to just jump in. Progress stories, because I've never heard that phrase before. You always hear people talk about success stories as if there's a finished there's a finish line, right? Like there never is. And businesses change, and like you said, pivot. So like, what is your progress story? That's a really, that may even be the title of this thing. Like, I like it.
No, it's true, because people make entrepreneurship look like it's fancy. It is not. It is hard. It is hard. And that's why, as a brand, we're very intentional about being very authentic about what entrepreneurship is. It's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can be a part of the puzzle and you're not an entrepreneur, but you're helping things work. That's different. You need to have a lion hat, literally, because entrepreneurship is hard. It's difficult. And you have to just keep pushing. And especially in Africa, in Nigeria, Bernie, you know what I'm talking about? It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Things don't work here. You know what I mean? So let's stop making this thing a buzzword where, entrepreneurship, I'm a startup. Blah, 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 blah. That's not what it is. It's hard work. And we try to be as, authentic as possible. We tell people the truth that this thing is not for everybody. Like, you have to be a certain kind of person to do entrepreneurship. Especially in Nigeria, where the system is working against you.
We were talking about this. I think Chimdi is very particularly passionate about that aspect, because we talk about, there's a thing I think on social media where people are pushing, like, I think they call it hustle Twitter, like, wake up and grind Twitter, and like entrepreneurship Twitter, and it's like, why should I feel bad that I'm just a regular person?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very, very scary part of the whole thing. People don't, again, that's what we talked about last week's episode?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I've been hesitating so much with my business and stuff like that, because it's not easy. It's not something you just get up and just do, and you have to really want to do it and continue to do it. So it's very, very tasking.
Exactly.
people that think that it's just I have a business idea and I just get up and do it. It's not easy. And the fears of like finding financing, stuff like that. It's some
Huh,
scary stuff, man.
that's a different ball game. Tell me about it.
When you
Oh
start
my
going to
goodness.
pitch to people to give you money, then you understand really what's going on in the yeah, crazy.
Like people see all these startups
Exactly.
raising like, oh, Series B and Series this and million, and it's like, oh,
It's
okay.
a buzzword. Trust
Hmm.
me. It's
Hmm.
become a buzzword though. I mean, I interact with startups all the time, and you see a startup that is doing business in Naira, and they're like, oh, I'm trying to raise 250K for 10%. I'm like, oh no. Hey God. What do you know is 250K? Your business is in Naira. What are you talking about? It's really a buzzword, but I
Yeah.
mean, entrepreneurship is no joke. And with 234 Finance, it's a passion point for me. Like I said, it also has a lot to do with my background and just seeing um how my parents hustled. And I like to say this, our house was an incubator. Bernie, I don't know if you remember anything about how we lived, how I was raised. So
Hmm.
my mom, I'll just give you a little backstory about my parents, right? So my dad was born when the Civil War happened. So he literally escaped, when the Biafra War happened. I think he escaped to the north and somehow he found himself in Lagos and he worked in CBN.
Yeah.
And I always tease my mom about this, that he met my mom in Aba. Was it in Aba? No, in Iberia, but she was an Aba girl. So he said she was an Aba girl, brought her to Lagos. And, our house was a house, if you think about the traditional Igbo family dynamics,
Yeah.
so you're if especially, if you're in Lagos, no matter what, if you're struggling, people in the village or people in the east, they're looking at you like the shining star and
Hmm.
they're expecting you to bring in people to the east. So our house was literally a business incubator. So our parents would have relatives live with us. They'll start their business in our house. And once they progress to a certain extent, they stand on their own, they move to their own houses, get married. And so many people pass through our house. So
Hmm.
this was a reality for me. So even when I was in high school in Lagos, and I'm an Igbo person, I always had this backlash, oh, Omo Igbo, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it was almost like you're treated like a second class citizen in Lagos at that
Hmm.
time. So
Hmm.
our house was really like a business incubator. So I was used to seeing different uncles, aunties, cousins, this person's person. How these family things are now. Even though you're not directly related, they'll say, "Oh, I'm your uncle's brother's auntie's sister."
Something.
They'll find a way to connect.
Hmm.
They'll
That's a
find a way to
relation
connect.
right there, whether you like it or not. That's a relative right there.
Exactly, exactly. So our house was a business incubator, right? So I had grown up in that environment and seen my parents, help people, put them in that trajectory, and they're able to come, through our house, and they're able to eventually stand on their own. So this is something, and my parents early on taught me a lot about charity and giving back. They'll go to Iberia, they'll buy all sorts of things and give to women. So it's something that's just part of me, and something that I'm passionate about. And I've seen over the years, I've seen my parents empower a lot of people. So it's just something that just, is
Hmm.
something I have a burning desire for, because I really don't believe in giving a man food, but showing him how to
Yeah.
fish, how to, help himself.
Hmm.
Yep.
So all of that, just sort of it's just sort of took me to position 234 Finance that way. And we had our first event and it was very successful. We had a good turnout and we did it again in 2019. And it was an even better turnout. We learned from the mistakes we made in the first year. And we got an interesting feedback. So we're trying to raise sponsorship and raise money. And the feedback we got from Nigerian investors was that, what? Why do I want to give somebody free money?
Hmm.
Why should I give? I have brothers that are hungry. I have sisters that need help. Why would I give you free money? I want to
Hmm.
invest in companies.
Hmm.
So that was the feedback we got. So we had to tweak 234 Finance a mentor matchup model to be like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to bring you to see investors, to see local investors who may be interested in your business. So it changed, it pivoted. And one thing I pride our brand is that we always listen. So we're not set in our ways that, okay, this is how we want to do it, so it must be
Hmm.
like this. We get feedback from people. And if 2-3 people are saying the same thing, then it's probably something that we should be looking at or taking seriously. So we're like, you know what? We're going to now tweak it. We're not going to give grants like that. We're going to tweak it, and that was for 2019. So it's a work in progress. We're going to keep trying out things until we find what works for us. And remember, this is something we're doing on our own. We're meeting people. We're leveraging relationships to see how people can support us. Because again, I'm a young lady who is just trying to take care of her family. I cannot throw all my money into 3-4 finance. Exactly. Especially if I'm not, because we're playing the long game. So it's not something that's going to, it's more like charity, but like I won't call it charity. It's social entrepreneurship. So it's not transactional. It's not something that's going to give you quick, immediate returns. And with Nigerian investors, local investors, that's something that they struggle to connect with because we're very transactional by default. And you can't blame us because that's the way our economy has made things to be. You have to do something that will give you quick turnover. And people are always scared. So this is not, yeah.
So you just got me thinking about something, because in the future, right? Okay. Do you see 234 as potentially an incubator? How the traditional
that's what it is.
Right? Because traditionally, like in the West, you're talking about Y Combinator and whatever else. Whether you bring in these startups, these entrepreneurs, you literally the incubator connects them with people and potentially can invest as well. Is that something that you guys are thinking about, like establishing in a formal way?
That is what we're doing, and I'm not going to speak more on it.
Okay. Hey, I want the exclusive. Okay,
I'll let you know the exclusive. But I'm not going to say this right now because I don't want to. I have partners in the company, so I don't want to give out too much information. But stay tuned. Watch this space.
All right.
Yeah.
That's great. They're taking it to that extent, So we'll see. I mean, again, when you also have passion for it and you know what's out there and what needs to be ready for people. You're calling, like you said, social entrepreneurship. You're just bringing them together and helping them figure it out, and that's a big piece that many people don't have, And all this started from you thinking we should have a Reuters for Africa or Nigeria, but it has pivoted to something else.
Exactly. And sometimes I actually forget that was where it started from.
I remember that. I remember that. Like it was a content hub.
Effectively.
Yeah, I remember that because it was like a business hub for information hub. People can come in and get info. I remember that very clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that.
That's what it was.
You still do that though. You should still do that actually. Figure out. I know you're busy and stuff. There's other stuff going on, but now there's always ways to find the developers and actually go back to that database that you still have. I'm guessing you still have it somewhere. So
we have it somewhere on the back end for sure.
So I mean, just it's still something that's necessary, like you said. I mean, now I know a lot more places. If you go to Reuters, you can probably check for some of these things now, but still, I would say if you can find somebody to just champion that part of it and just raise that up, I would still do that because it's very, very important. It's very, very important.
So to be honest, Chimdi, I see 234 Finance. So from day one, I always say this, that I didn't start this company out to do it by myself. So I'm a collaborator by default. So I'm always looking at, okay, what are the pieces that need to be put in the puzzle? Because this dream is beyond me. Do you understand? I mean, someone was telling me, I said, Ezinne, do you know it's the government that's supposed to be doing this thing that you're doing? So for me, let's leave the government aside. As Nigerians and as people who are privileged, because we are privileged, if you think about, if you look at what is going on here, we're very privileged. We owe it to our children's generation to get things done. I have there's a partner of mine, and he says that what drives him is that, if, for example, when he dies or something, or when he gets old and his children see Nigeria in a certain state, and they ask him, what did you do about it? He's able to say, this was what I did. Yeah. There are two kinds of people. There are people who complain, and there are people who actually do things or get things done.
Yeah.
at any capacity. It doesn't have to be at my capacity. It can be in your own little corner. It could be you supporting somebody who is doing something, but at some capacity. You know, we're adults now, and we're not even the future. We're the present. I'm sure if you look at your network, you have people who are in key positions. Do you understand? Strategic positions right now. So we're
Yeah.
no longer kids. We can't blame our parents. Our parents have done what they could based on the information that they had access to, based on the opportunities they have access to. They've tried. So it's our responsibility to do the little we can.
Yeah, this is why I
You know
keep
what I
Chimdi
mean? So
around.
that's just
You know,
yeah.
Chimdi is a big boy in his
Yeah.
industry, so
No,
you're a big boy. Don't relax.
no. We never reach. We never reach. But it's funny. It's funny because I was talking to somebody literally yesterday, and she works. She lives in Nigeria, but she's around in New York for something.
Okay.
We're just talking about the tech space in Nigeria, and because she works for one of those, I won't name the specific one, but one of the Mandela pay stack boards.
Yeah.
And it was just telling me how the culture is and how it's evolved, and how things are getting like very multinational now. And I'm
Yes.
like, what do you think about it? Like, I was talking about myself and like what's going on in my life right now, my work history and stuff like that. And it's like, first of all, I usually think I haven't achieved anything because I feel like I could be doing much more. But at the same time, when you sit down and look at it and say, you're 32, 33, and you're doing this, something that somebody, you know, 10 years ago or 50, 20 years ago, somebody in your position would have been at least 50 something years old, 60.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's incredible. So giving ourselves credit and striving
We do.
on
We need
from that point,
to. We need
from that
to.
point is very, very key. Because I mean things that are going on and people that you know and that are doing things, especially now in our age where, you know, we are the ones spurring things on, having new ideas, making new companies, all that kind of stuff. It's a very interesting time to be in. So all these connections that we're all building.
And like I was saying to somebody today that it's the millennials and the Gen Zs that are going to change, that are not are going to, that are changing the world. Because I don't know, we just have these guts. We're so bold.
Yeah.
Do you understand? We're disrupting everything. You
To,
know, we're
to,
disrupting the natural way things have always been. We're questioning things.
yeah.
You know what I mean? We're like, why is this so? Compared to our parents' generation that they're like, this thing is like this, so let's leave it like this. With our generation, we're like, no, why is this thing like this? Why can't it be like this? Why can't we tweak things? And that's really where innovation comes into place. And with our generation, we're not as divided, even though tribalism and all of this crap still exists. With our generation, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm sure you have friends that are Yoruba, friends that are Hausa, and you're thinking of, you just look at them as human beings. And, we're more exposed with the internet and, what social media and all of that. We're able to, educate ourselves. So we're not as close-minded as our parents. And trust me, this is not just my job or your job. It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the people, the elite community really need to come together because we're the ones that actually have the leverage to make things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a lot of work to do. We're getting things done, but there's still so much work ahead of us. And for me, I want to die knowing that I left a legacy. That's more important to me than any other thing,
Definitely. Speaking about legacy, let's before because we're getting close to the end a little bit, but
The
um
end, yes.
but we just want to touch on, the main things that make us really happy. Forget all this business stuff. Family. So how is it being a mom of three? How is it doing all this you're doing and raising wait, you have three sons or two sons and a girl? You have
Yes,
all boys, right?
three. No, I
All
have three boys. I
three
have
boys.
three boys.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how is it, dealing with all that? How's it going? The mom life and everything. Just share your joy of motherhood with us, because me and Bernie talk about our kids a lot, and we know how happy we are to.
This is a family friendly show, so we have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So it's tough, to be honest, because so I always tell people that I didn't really see marriage. A lot of people, especially with how women were raised in Nigeria, marriage is like the end. Okay, get your career, then you marry and you have children. So for me, it was like a box. that I wanted to tick off.
Uh-huh.
This is me being 100% honest. I just wanted to tick off the box. Okay, I'm married, tick, I have children, tick, then I focus on
And
my
everything else.
purpose. So it gets tricky. Yeah, it gets really tricky trying to balance things out because I have a full, besides 234 finance, as some of you may know, I work with my family business, which is quite tricky combining, keeping my family business alive and protecting our legacy and, pursuing my own dream and also taking care of three beautiful children who are
Mm-hmm.
in a very sensitive age. I mean, my first son is going to be 6 in October, and my twins are going to be 3. And this is the age where they pick up a lot of things. You actually have to be very present
Yeah.
in their lives at this age. So, sometimes I suffer mommy guilt because I'm not a sit-at-home person. I'm a go-getter. I like to be out there. I like to add value. I like to get things done. I've never ever been a sit-at-home person. Even when I was pregnant, I was still, getting things done.
Yeah.
So it gets tricky. But what I do to balance it is that when I'm with my children, I keep my phone away. I'm 100% present. Even if it's 10 minutes I'm spending with them, I'm 100% present in that 10 minutes. I usually do school drop off in the morning. So that's also my mommy and me time with the children. It's just me and 3 of them, in the car, and I drop them off at school. Then at night, it's very tricky in Lagos because we're dealing with all types of principalities. To be honest, traffic alone is a principality of its own.
Yeah.
So it depends. Sometimes I come home, I'm tired, I don't want to see any child, and I just sleep. If I come home early enough, I go stay with them, play with them, and that would be that. I take them to church, so that's also a way of bonding with them. So I find, it's tricky, but I try to squeeze in time here and there. But I'm very involved, with their schoolwork, with their
Mm.
development. I have their teachers on my WhatsApp. Like they had an international day at school. One of my sons had to dress as a Bahrainian or Barani. I don't know what they call it. The twins had to
Sorry.
dress as people from Madagascar. And I was in Ghana and I had to start WhatsApping the tailor that, please, I need outfits. My children have to do it because they also don't want the children to carry last as well.
Exactly.
So, it's very tricky, but I try to balance it out. It's very tricky and there's really no balance. That's the truth. If you're focusing on one thing, best believe that something else is suffering. If I'm focusing on my children, work is suffering. If I'm focusing on work, children matter is suffering somehow. So it's very difficult. There's nothing like balance. So something must suffer while you're focusing on one thing. So it's just good to find a way to mix it up. Like on Friday, I had to do my children's open day, and I have 3 children, so that's like over an hour of going to their school, speaking to their teachers, knowing their progress. So I kind of had to take half day at work. I wasn't at work. I didn't take a day off, but I couldn't be at work. But I guess that's also the benefit of working in family business because it also gives you this flexibility because, it's your business as well. So nobody's going to question you. But I also try not to take the piss because I want to set a precedent. I want to set an example for the people who look up to me or the people who are reporting to me to know that, okay, if I'm not messing up, then you can't be messing up or you can't be slacking. Exactly. But I also have, people, I'm building a team, so I'm able to delegate and really work is on the phone. No? So I don't even have to be at the office all the time. As long as they can reach me, then I can, get other things done. So there's really no balance. Something must suffer. That's the truth. And that has been my experience. And I also have help. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not trying to be some super woman, super wife. No. I have people that help me out in certain things. I delegate, So the ones that I can't do, I delegate it and I pay for that service. And I'm able to focus on the more important, high level things. So that's just, how I balance it out, to be honest.
The thing as well that I think you do very well is, there are lots of people who, and I think myself included, who, you have work and you have your kids. And, those are the 2 realms that you live in. And like the way North America is structured, it's not even just our fault. North America is structured. You don't have that much time just for you know what I mean? Or just to like social, like, you might do evening things, but like just recently you were in Ghana for a girls trip. And I wasn't gonna let this pass without like talking about that because look, you guys were peppering us with, like with the enjoyments. And the two things I wanted to ask, like, one, is that just the Lagos life, where like, people still have a social life? And two, Ghana looks lit. Like, what are we doing wrong compared to them, if at all?
Oh, more Ghana is lit. Hey, God. Nigeria, if any politician is listening to this, people should sit up. Oh. Hey, I remember Ghana when we had my dad's cousins live with us back in those days on the mainland, and they will go to Ghana. Like, we used to look down on Ghana, like, you're going to Ghana to buy their chocolate. Okay. Like, we looked at Ghana, looked down on Ghana. Do you understand? Ghana is lit. I'm not trying to do any tourism advertisement here because y'all didn't pay me for it, but we are so behind, and I know that it has a lot to do with our policies and just the friendliness of the environment. Yep. So with Ghana, it was actually my mom. That was all my mom. So for her, she wanted to. So all of the women on that trip are all mothers. They each have at least 2 children. Everyone on that trip, mothers and grandmothers. And for her, it was more like a family bonding thing, and she kind of wanted to bring everybody together because my mom really has been that person, has been the glue. I say she's the glue that has kept the family together. So my grandfather married 2 wives, and my mom has half sisters, but you can't even tell who is half sister or who is not, because my mom has made it a duty to keep everybody together. Bernie, I'm sure you know a lot about this. Mm-hmm. So everybody is my sister, and she even has half sisters that look exactly like her. So you can't even tell the difference between who is a half sister or who isn't.
Literally carbon copies.
Exactly. So for us, it was more like, let's get away from Lagos. And, with COVID, we've not traveled. So it was just, an opportunity for everyone to just get out of their regular lives and just, let their hair down. So that was fantastic. And the thing with me, Bernie, is that anything I do hard. If I'm working, I'm working hard. Mm-hmm. If I'm partying, I am partying hard. Mm-hmm. So I put 100% in anything because it's important to have that balance, because Lagos will drive you crazy. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with all sorts. We're dealing with kidnapping. We're dealing with all sorts of menaces in this city. Stuff. And, that's just like, it's like, what do you call it now? It's an effect of all the things that are not right in our society. And, it's getting worse every day. I mean, people are talking about plan B, I'm in groups where people are talking, they're like sharing things on how you can japa and, all of that stuff, because it's real, like it's in our neighborhoods. You hear of kidnapping in Ikoyi, in Lekki Phase 1, places that are supposed to be highbrow areas. And if you compare it to Ghana, people are living the life. I was just telling my friend that in Ghana, you see, expatriates, they are living, nobody's going around with security.
Nope.
Everybody is living free life. Do you understand? Their airports, I was in Ghana in 2019, and I can tell you for free that the development in their airports alone has been tremendous from when I just visited. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot going on in Ghana, and there's this, I don't know if you guys are on Clubhouse, there's this thing that African Americans are pushing for repatriation and, being compensated for what happened in the slave trade area. And they are now actively investing in African countries that are stable. And I feel like Nigeria is actually the #1 market, but because of the way Nigeria is, people are going to Ghana that is close to Nigeria. But think about the talent. Where are we getting our talent in the creative space, in the music industry? Most of them are Nigerians. Yep. Who are we kidding? Mm-hmm. How big is Ghana's economy? I'm not hating on Ghana, please. Nobody should come for me because, but Nigeria, we have the numbers. You know what I mean? But our policy is all wrong. We are not organized. Like, we need to get our shit together. Excuse my French. You know what I mean? So Ghana, they've gotten it. They're cracking it. They're pushing their tourism. And, the airports, they've invested heavily in their airport, because that's really where, first impression gives a lasting impression. If you come to an airport, it was so seamless. We got to the airport. They had the testing centers there. They said 20 minutes. Once you land, you do your COVID test. Mm-hmm. Once you do your COVID test, by the time you pass through security, you pass through baggage and all of that, your COVID test is already ready.
Really?
And
the results?
There and then yes, I got
20 minutes.
Yes.
Wow. We're not even doing that here. We're not doing that here.
very
I'm
efficient.
telling you.
Even before
People,
COVID, right? You know,
mm,
you had to show your like what was that yellow fever or one of those shots you have to show before
yes,
you
I know
enter the
yellow
country.
fever. Yeah.
It was very efficient from back then. Even if you didn't have your shots, you could take your shot to the airport if you really needed to, as long as you showed the money, you paid the money or whatever. But still, very efficient. Only thing that Ghana is annoying about is just that the people are still Ghanaian. They're still very
They're still
chill.
Ghanaian. You know,
They're
they
still
don't have
very
our
chill.
swag.
They don't
My
have
guy said they're still Ghanaian.
They don't
no.
have our swag, no
But you
matter
know what I
what.
mean. You know what I mean? They're very like if you go to restaurants, you feel the effect of them. Like they take their time with everything. Like it's
Yeah,
Mm,
not
they're very slow
they're very
paced.
chill. So that's
They're very
that's what
laid
I mean.
back. Yeah.
But that
mm.
also helps them with everything they're doing, Sha. So I guess it's a good thing for them.
They don't have the struggle that we have now, Chimdi. In Nigeria,
Exactly.
everything is rush, rush.
Rush,
You know,
rush, exactly.
everything is rush, rush. You have to be on your toes. But in Ghana, they're so organized. Even when we were coming back, we had to do COVID test again before we got to the airport and we started passing security. And they have a fantastic data collection thing. Everything was online. You know, we got to the airport, there was Wi-Fi at the airport. You were able to upload your information, your address, everything on their website. I mean, it was fantastic. I'm not gonna lie. Ghana is definitely where it's at. And you know, you see Nigerians investing in Ghana. Isn't it sad?
Yep.
Nigerians have money now. They're investing in Ghana because the country is stable. Their policies are favorable for them to invest in. You know, Nigeria, we don't know if we're going forward or if we're going backwards. But you know, that's why again I'm going to take it back to the SMEs. They're really the engine house of our economy. They're the ones keeping our economy alive. And
Mhm.
that's why we have to support them. I don't believe in complaining about government or about what government is doing or what they're not doing. I'm like, what are you doing about it? You
Yep.
know, and if we think about even the history of the United States, it was the what's the name of this company now? This family, I can't remember, but it was,
Rockefeller.
you know, there were American families, sorry, the Rockefellers, yeah, you know, those families that developed the American economies. Then the government followed suit. So it's actually we can't be depending on government. We have to do what we you know at our different capacities. And if you think about the diasporan community, it's huge. It's
Mhm.
so huge. If you look at Nigerians are going to Canada in droves. They're going to Europe in droves.
Yep.
You know, they're going to America in droves. How are we harnessing that? So these are some of the things that keep me awake at night. How can
Mhm.
we mobilize the diasporan communities to do things that will push our country forward and shame all these our politicians? Let's forget about them. What are we doing at our own capacity? What
Yep.
legacies are we leaving behind? Do you know what I mean? So those are the things that keep me awake and keep me. I'm so restless. I am. There was a period that I had insomnia for almost 3 weeks straight because the ideas and the things I was trying to do were keeping me awake. And you know, we can't be laid back about this thing. And you know, with COVID happening and people dying suddenly, for me it's urgent. Like we have to do this thing now, 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 now. There's
Yeah.
no tomorrow or later. We whatever we're doing, we have to do it right now because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And I mean, I'm not really scared of death, but I want to leave my mark on earth. I want to, you know, Nelson Mandela. We still talk about him. This
Mhm.
guy in Ghana, I can't remember the guy that died recently, the mixed race guy. People
Oh,
still in Ghana, they still
General
sorry,
Jerry Rawlings, right? The general.
They're rolling.
Yeah, Jay Rollins. People still talk about him, you know. So I want to leave that sort of legacy, and you don't have to be in government to do it. You can do it in your own little corner with your own startup with one innovative idea. And let me tell you something. Do you know that some of these problems we're solving in Africa, we're actually solving those problems for the world?
World.
The world is actually paying attention and depending on Africa to come up with some of these innovations because we're solving some of the toughest problems. And when you find the toughest problems, the hardest things, that's where opportunities lie. You know, I mean, I
Hmm?
know people who have gotten Canadian PR on Express because the Canadian government is literally inviting them to come and replicate that same thing in Canada.
They know the
Like,
benefit.
you know
They
what
know
I
the
mean?
benefit, and that's the problem that Nigeria has, on the back end in that because you're talking about how can we mobilize the diaspora. When you look at like other countries like South Koreans and the Chinese, they all come out here for university,
Yep.
but so many of them go back
They go
because
back.
there's
Yes.
something there. That's the only
China.
thing I tell people is there is
China.
infrastructure there that allows them to take what they learn and apply it. Whereas there's not like you see a lot of so there's quite a few Nigerians, like even our circles, like we all know them, who've come back. Yourself, Zinni,
Yeah.
some of our other friends we've had on the show who've come back, and they've all said the same thing, like, man, I struggle, and then they start to think about, is it, especially when they have kids, is it worth it for me to struggle like this and bring my kids here, whereas these other
Can I
communities,
say
they
something?
all go back because the infrastructure is there and been built up by the government and the community that can make it work for them. That's the only thing that I think gives people something to think about in that respect.
So can I say something,
Yeah, please
Bernie?
go ahead.
I want to counter that real quick.
Please do.
So I think sometimes we're quite selfish as Africans. There are people who are literally willing to die for their country. Do you understand? So you really need to get to that point where you're really willing to die. Like whatever wants to happen, let it happen. But let you know that I died trying. Let's bring it to 50 cents. I died trying. You know what I mean? So we need to get out of this, selfish way of thinking, oh, me, my family, and I. Let's think about a community, a collective. Some of these people that have, been successful, like China. I was listening to something on CNN about 2 years ago about how China has left even US behind, because there's these Chinese American communities that come to the US. They understudy how things are being done in the US and they take it back to China. In fact, the US was fighting that seriously because if they suspect you to be doing that, they're going to, what they call that thing now, it's a crime in the US if you're taking
Espionage.
espionage. Yeah, you're taking the technology or whatever back to this thing, to China or whatever. People are literally willing to die for their country, and that's the fact. Secondly, there's no infrastructure. Why don't we build our own infrastructure? Why are we waiting for the government to do it? And we need to get out of that mentality that we're waiting. Nobody is going to do it for us. And let me tell you something. If you're building the infrastructure, you have all the leverage, because eventually what happens is that the government is always playing the catch-up game, right? If you think about PlayStack, Flutterwave, these are guys that came to solve problems. And now, the government is playing catch-up games. So they have all the leverage and they're coming to try and, put some restrictions here and there on what they're doing. But as they're coming, they've already moved now. Do you understand?
Exactly.
So that's where the opportunity is. It's difficult. It's hard work. But, that's the only way. We need to, get out of that mentality of, oh, the government needs to put infrastructure. We have to build the infrastructure. And that, brings it back to my, the example of the Rockefellers and all of these people. It was people that built these things. If you read the history of Germany and some of these European countries, it was people that came together and were like, you know what, if I die, I die. If I was in Europe like 2 years ago and we took tours in some of their historic centers and things, and we saw where they had wars and like brutal things. They still preserved that history regardless of how brutal it was. And you saw that people actually fought. People lost lives for how their country is today, for their children's children to enjoy. So I think it's very important for us to get out of that mentality that, oh, no infrastructure. That's why we're brilliant. That's why people went to Loyola now. The best brains in Nigeria. You know what I mean? So we need to just find a way about it. And thank God, COVID has happened and we know that it's actually possible to work remotely. So we don't have to be meeting physically. We can have more of these virtual meetings. And this is actually why I love Clubhouse. When I joined Clubhouse, I was super active on it. But of course, work has come and I don't have time for Clubhouse as much, so I was really, excited to do this with you because I have a lot to share. And this is a burning desire in my heart to, to play my own role, to play my part in, fixing our nation, fixing our continent.
Well, if you have any other business ideas that you think are worth it, we won't talk on the podcast, but let us know, because we've talked about this before. I am interested in investing in Nigeria if it makes sense, but it's got to make sense. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, yo, let's just go and let's build this thing. Like, no. Like, let's be real. I need to make money. It's got to make sense to me.
Oh, of course. And that's what I'm doing. So for me, with 234 Finance and the sweat, because I always say that 234 Finance, more than money, my sweat equity has gone into this. My brain work
Mhm.
I can't even quantify it. If I'm trying to do evaluation on 24 Finance, I can't quantify the amount of brain work. And that is much more than any physical money that I've put in it. Trying to figure things out, trying to tweak things to work. So for us, we really want to position our brand as that brand that is trusted, and that is a platform that people even in diaspora will eventually be able to plug into. I don't want to share that, but Bernie and I will talk, off records about what some of the things, and we're working on very interesting things. I'm bringing in partners. I have, people who have equity in 234 Finance, so they are vested in it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a lot of work, and I'm sure in the coming months you're going to see it, or I'll tell you about it. But we're working on really interesting things that I don't want to divulge because my partner is not here, and I'm not sure what I can share and what I cannot share.
Well,
That's
when
Yeah,
you guys are ready to
going
go
on.
public, you can come back and
exactly.
we can
Sure.
talk more business with your partners, and yeah, we would love to promote that and love to have further conversations around not just the startup community, but the investment space in Nigeria. We'd definitely love to have you back. Um, Zinni, thanks for coming on. We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much.
I
Yeah.
will share this
For
story just so
having
people
me.
understand
I had
how close we are. In fact, when her mom and her mom tells me the story every time I see her, she tells me the same
Yes. Oh
story
my God.
where she's like, your dad is such a good guy. When I was sort of not paying attention in school, they made me live with him for a little bit, and he really like changed my focus and changed my life. So your dad, you're this. So you and Zinni should always stay close. So that's how close that we are. It goes back then. So I've always wanted to have you
Yeah.
on, and I'm glad to have you on our show. I appreciate
Yeah, we wanted to have you on for a long time,
I'm
and we're happy
here.
that you came. So we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nice. Greet your family,
I will.
your kids, your boys. Tell them to keep eating well,
it.
getting tall and strong, big boys. That's key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the talk shop.